Hello and welcome. Today's session is Resume Building Blocks with Kane Partners. My name is Kristen Kane. I'm the Director of Social Media and Recruiting with Kane Partners. Thank you all for attending. Today's 30-minute breakdown will include discussing the types of resumes, the points of view of hiring managers, how to make your resume stand out from the crowd, with tips to building a quality resume that will help you pass the quick scan to get to the interview. Finally, I'll close with a few examples from actual NBC10 viewers that have implemented these building block tips. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer is please keep in mind each job seeker has a unique situation. If you do have any questions, I do recommend reaching out to a professional or someone in your field to offer advice. With that being said, let's begin. In order to find the right candidate in a pool of candidates, it starts with a resume. The goal of your resume is to stand out as the applicant that deserves the interview. So in this scenario, you're looking for the stamp of approval to move on to the next phase, which is interviewing. Please note your resume is the tool and vehicle to secure the interview. Without the interview, you will not have the opportunity to receive a job offer and have the ability to accept or decline an offer. Our goal in today's session is to secure more interviews. I want you to think of the concept of a needle in a haystack. There are potentially hundreds of resumes per job listing that you're applying. What that means is the competition is high, the hiring manager's time is limited, but the situation remains the same. There's a problem that needs to be solved. They have a job opening that needs to be filled. It is your responsibility as a job seeker and a potential candidate to be their obvious solution. And your well-crafted resume is your first-class ticket to that interview. When you submit and apply to a job, I want you to think about the person that's going to be reviewing your qualifications. The first type of person could be human resources. That could be a manager, VP, generalist, or simply a recruiter. No matter what, they all have the same problem. They have a job within their company that needs to be filled as soon as possible. This could be a new position, a replacement, or a temporary contract. Regardless, this team of human resources professionals are doing multiple things within their organization. Of course, everyone is on limited and borrowed time, so there is a sense of urgency. The other type of person that could be reviewing your resume is the actual hiring manager. This is the person that you would be working directly with or for if you were to be hired. The way this person reads your resume is going to be a little bit different because they're reading it as a potential co-worker or someone that would be reporting directly to them. They will most likely be able to easily scan your resume and see if you can or cannot do the job they're looking for. The third type of person could be a recruiter. This person is being paid to find the top talent to submit and present to a particular company. Recruiters often work on multiple positions and not all of them are always advertised. So if they have one type of position, they're more likely to have similar positions at other companies. Recruiters can and should act as your spokesperson. They should be taking the time to edit your resume before sending to a company to ensure that you're not just being submitted, but you're also getting an interview. No matter who's viewing our resume, the components remain the same. Your contact information, an overview of work history and experience, education, certifications, honors, awards, accomplishments, and your skills and abilities. If you're providing an online or visual resume, a photo, video, or both would be applicable. Your resume is telling your story to a company in a series of words or potentially an online profile. There are different types of resumes. The most popular is a reverse chronological resume, where you start with your most recent experience and work backwards. Another type of resume is functional, where you're focusing on your skills and abilities and what you can do for a company. And the third type is a combination, where it's a functional and reverse chronological, where the emphasis is really on your abilities, but it also states where and when you worked at particular companies. Again, we are mentioning the online resumes. This could be your LinkedIn profile, social media profiles, or an online profile, gallery, website, portfolio that you've crafted. And last but not least, you have your video resume. Like all things, there are pitfalls. And here are 3 common pitfalls that happen for resumes. Number 1 is people go overboard. They put too much information in a resume, where they feel as though they know they can do the job, so they're going to say absolutely everything they can in their resume. Their resume tends to be very lengthy, wordy, paragraphs, and it's as though you're reading a short story. Keeping in mind that the hiring managers, the recruiters, and the HR professionals are all strapped for time, your resume may be overlooked as being this person is overqualified, or they've done a lot of everything but not enough of what I need. So the pitfall of too much information is you're really missing the target. The second type of pitfall is the generic resume. This is where you take the time to build one really great resume, and that's all you're sending out to prospective employers. It outlines each of the jobs that you've done. It has a nice canned cover letter. But oftentimes, generic resumes that are just talking about your experience, they may come across as either underqualified, or you've done a similar job, but you're not doing what we really need you to do. So in this situation, you also may be overlooked. The third pitfall is the spray and pray. These are people that have that resume. Usually it's one, again, very nicely formatted resume, and they apply to any and all jobs that they can do today or they could have done in the past. It's the people that spray and pray that tend to get very little feedback on and from companies. And it's not because the company doesn't care. It's usually because they're also reviewing several other resumes, and they simply don't have time to get back to say, we're sorry, but you're overqualified. In the back of your mind, you know you're overqualified, but you're still taking a shot. That's okay, but take the shot without the expectation of, I'm going to hear back. If you know you can do the job, you know that it's in your salary range, it's in a driving distance, if it's coming out of a competitor, and you really feel as though you would be a perfect match, the spray and pray method will only have you be overlooked. You need to focus on what resume is going to catch the attention of the hiring manager. So let's avoid these pitfalls, and let's talk about the resume building blocks. As I mentioned earlier, there's 5. Please use what you feel is going to work best for you in your specific situation. And if at any time you have any question, I'll be answering questions at the end of today's session live. However, there's a number of local professionals across the region that offer paid and free support. Utilize meetup groups, online support groups to help you work through your specific situation to be able to successfully implement these building blocks. Block number 1 is the profile versus the objective. And the reason is, I vote for a profile. So let's remove the objective, because the objective should be clear. We want the job. Instead, let's take this prime real estate, which is located just below your contact information on the resume, and let's take this opportunity to introduce ourselves in a fact-based elevator speech. In 30 seconds or 3 to 5 sentences, how would you introduce yourself to this prospective employer? How would you relate your X amount of years of experience to this company that says, yes, you need to continue to read my resume, and yes, you need to follow up with a phone call to set up the interview? Take this opportunity to craft a profile, a summary, and speak directly to the company. I do recommend third person, and again, keep it fact-based. This is not the place to say that you're a team player, you have a strong work ethic, but really try and stick to the facts. Short paragraph is fine, or if you prefer bullets, both work, but again, focusing on the introduction. Remember, this is prime real estate. Portion number 2 is experience. It doesn't necessarily have to come in this order, but your experience is what's the supporting factor and information that's going to help you land the interview. I say all resumes should be complete. That means it should be up to date and going back to the beginning of your career. Now, some of you that have been in business for 20, 30 plus years, you may think that that's not relevant. This might be a case where we would have to speak one-on-one. But I will stick by resumes should be complete. They also should fit in the reverse chronological format. Now, if you're applying to a job, which is a career transition, or you haven't been working for a few years, this type of resume might not be best for you. So use your discretion of what resume works where. Now, what I will say for reverse chronological, if there's a job that you've taken over the past 10 years that really isn't relevant, but it's on your resume, don't omit it because it's not relevant to the job. Simply put that you were working for X amount of years at blank company and choose not to put the bullets of what you were doing. Instead, focus on building the resume with bullets that are going to support how and why you can do the job at the company you're applying. So you're going in and tailoring each individual bullet. So we're focusing our experience on the job that we're applying to. We're using bullets. And when you use a bullet, you start your bullet out not with responsible for. That's a very big mistake I continue to see on resumes. But we're going to start our bullet with an action verb. Managed, supervised, implemented, improved. Action verb followed by a brief description of what we've done. Where applicable, we're quantifying and qualifying. So we did not manage a team of 5 people. We managed a team of 5 sales associates, direct reports. So when we apply to the company that wants us to manage 3 direct reports, they're going to read our resume and say, wow, she managed a team of 5. That's a plus. So make sure you can paint a clear picture, qualify and quantify when applicable. Those of you in a career change or going back to work after an absence, think about crafting a combination resume or functional resume. Because we're all coming from multiple backgrounds, different situations, you can take this opportunity in your experience to really hone in on what you're portraying for the prospective employer. Are you giving relevant experience or recent experience? Are you focusing on the volunteer work you've done because you haven't worked in the past 5 or 10 years? Or are we just speaking of a professional experience overview? This is an opportunity for you to title the section that's most relevant to how you're portraying yourself and telling your story on paper. There is no right or wrong. Building block number 3 is education. If you're degreed, you should include your degree on your resume. Start with the highest level of degree first and work backwards. List the educational institute. If you're including your GPA, make sure it's a good GPA. What's a good GPA? I like to say anything 3.0 or above. Unless you're a recent graduate or just completed a master's program, I really don't think GPA is relevant, but I will leave that up to you. Should you include your graduation year? Yes. My answer is yes. You really can't hide age and For many of us, we should be proud of what we've done, where we've come from, and share what we have to offer, and that is our education. For those of you that are concerned and want to omit it, please feel free. I do suggest, because many of us that have gone through some level of, whether it's high school, college, master's, maybe you're degreed in something that you're not working in that field. You don't necessarily have to say you have an associate's in or a bachelor's in the business field, but simply putting the level of education. If the job requires you to have a high school degree and your highest level of education is high school, then yes, I would list your high school degree. If you're not sure, or if the company's not calling for any education and you're not comfortable putting a high school degree, then please do not feel obligated to do so. But whatever the minimum requirement is for the job, and if you have it, it should be stated on your resume. For those of you that have a unique situation, please ask a professional. If you did go back for a degree at night, whether it was for an associate's, master's, or other, take the time on your resume to include a line that says you've attended the program in the evening while as a full-time employee. Or if you took a leave of absence from work and went back to school full-time, make sure you're stating that. Education is also a place to put and list your certifications, especially if it's relevant to your field. Try not to use abbreviations, but take the time to spell out what the certifications are for. Tip number 4, and this is often omitted from resumes and because people don't think it's necessary, but this is a great opportunity to talk about skills in areas of expertise. What that means are keywords and buzzwords. If you're a hiring manager, you're looking for buzzwords in your industry. If you are a recruiter and you have no idea what the chemist does, but you know what keyword you're looking for. If your resume is not stating those keywords, you may be overlooked. So let's take the opportunity to add or improve a skills or areas of expertise spot on our resume. This is an opportunity to highlight our top skills relevant to the job we're applying. Please make sure if you're using skills and areas of expertise that you are not littering your resume with keywords simply to make people look at your resume. But make sure that you're supporting the keywords in your areas of expertise below in education as well as in your experience. If you're telling me you have skill set A, I better see somewhere in your experience when and how you are utilizing that skill. And that would be in bullet format, especially if the job is calling for it. So make sure in this particular section to focus on the skills that are relevant to the job that you're applying. Here's an example of what that could look like. Here are 9 skill sets that the job is looking for, the person has, and later on in the resume, they go on to talk about project management, conflict resolution, staff management in the experience bullets. So make sure you're providing supporting documentation for your skill area. Building block number 5, honors and awards. Usually that's the last thing that you'll see on a resume, and people sometimes will simply cut it out because they're at the bottom of page 1 or getting to the bottom of page 2 and they don't want to go over. Let's forget the 1 to 2 page rule and let's focus on what needs to be said to secure the interview. Oftentimes it's honors and awards and things that really will make you stand out that will help you land that interview. If you simply omit them because you're afraid of going over 1 page or 2, you may be cutting and selling yourself short. So use your discretion. Will this honor and award help me in securing my interview? If so, make sure it's on the email that you send. Now, additional tips real quick for tailoring a resume. If you're a fresh or recent graduate and you are lacking work experience, focus on your internships. If you don't have any, get one. If you don't, Talk about extracurricular activities at school, senior or special projects. If you're still in school, take now as an advantage to going and looking for an internship, paid or non-paid. Get the experience today. Those of you that are making a career change, you should be using relevant experience, thinking about a combination resume, talking about the skills you have to offer. Remember, you can always teach someone a new trick. Okay, you can always learn a new technology or a new way to do something. You can't teach work ethic and dedication. So make sure you're presenting yourself as a team player and someone that truly is interested in a career move. Those of you that are close to retirement and you don't want to put together a resume of your last 20, 30 plus years, focus on recent experience and make available the remainder of your chronological resume simply by the places that you've worked with time frames. You do not need to go into bullet upon bullet upon bullet and have a several page resume, but really focus on recent experience. There's an answer for everyone. It's a matter of thinking, how do I need to package my background to make sure that this company considers me for the interview? Here's an example of an NBC viewer whose concern was he was being overlooked because of age. In his profile, the first thing that he points out that he has over 35 years of experience. Below that, he has an excellent track record of over 30 years at one company. However, he's light on telling me and the companies what he's done is in his background. So we took some of our tips and skills, building blocks for resumes, and we made some adjustments. We took out identifying 35 years of experience because it clearly states it in how long he's been working at this company. And we went ahead and said a senior level professional with experience in. We broke up his progression from starting in customer service and working his way up into shipping and receiving, and took the time to build out what he did under each position. We also, at the bottom, notice, added skills and equipment, because every job he was applying for was looking for someone that knew how to drive a forklift and pallet drivers and familiar with shipping machines. Simply by adding this to the resume, employers started to notice the qualifications were there, and it was time for the interview process. So keep in mind, it's all about how you're delivering and packaging your message. So here's my project or homework for you. Let's talk about passing that quick scan, whether it's a hiring manager, recruiter, or HR professional. What do they do when they look at your resume? Where they're looking for matches. They're going through all of the resumes they've received, and they're looking for the first grouping of people to read again and decide who's getting the interview. So let's make it through that first scan. So here's an example. I'm looking for someone that can schedule calendars, do expense reports, and travel reports. And if they have ordered supplies and have a high school diploma, that's great, but not required. Here's the resume on the left-hand side. She chose to put together a paragraph format. Am I going to read that? Not really. Am I scanning for keywords? Absolutely. Now, what if I took the exact same resume and put it in bullet format? Now I'm starting out each bullet with a key word, an action verb, followed by what was happening. Let's highlight the key words. Look at that. The option of bullets with action verbs followed by quantifying and qualifying the bullet, it's much easier to read. The same resume, but the one on the right is jumping out at me as a hiring manager saying this person has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 things that I'm looking for. So it's all about the delivery, action verbs and bullets. So what do we do before we apply to each job? We've gone through some 5 pretty basic tips, but that's not what I'm teaching you today. It's not about just coming up with a profile or just building your experience and adding technical skills. The trick is doing it correctly for each job you apply for. Why? Because we need the interview. We know the competition's high. We know time's limited. So it's up to us as the job seeker to go out and take the time to tailor our resume to ensure we're given a fair shot at a job we should be considered for. So here's a sneak peek at what I need you to do. Number 1, print the job description, and you'll only have to actually print it the first couple times till you get the hang of it. Take highlighter color number 1. I like to use pink. And highlight everything on that resume that's required in order for them to hire you. So highlight, I like to say, don't highlight the whole thing. Highlight the action verb and what they're looking for specifically. So manage staff, okay? Implement process improvement. That's all you're highlighting. Do not highlight the whole bullet. Number 3, in a second color, I like to use yellow. Go through and highlight all of the nice to haves or preferred, right? It's not going to make or break if I do or do not have a master's degree, but they're looking for it. All right, so we've taken the job description and we've highlighted must have and nice to have. Next, I'm going to ask you to print your resume. Highlight only what's on your resume that is on the job description. So as you look at everything you highlighted in pink, you can only highlight your resume if it's there. This is your opportunity to say and actually look at the job description and look at your resume and say, do they look similar? Have I been able to highlight anything in pink on my resume? If the answer is no, do you think you're going to get the call for the interview? Probably not. And if you're thinking to yourself, but wait, I have done that. I do that. I did that for 20 years. If you're saying that to yourself and you can't highlight it on your resume, the person that's looking at your resume is not going to know they should be calling you. This is where you take the opportunity to go back to the drawing board with your resume, review the job description, and go through one item by one item. If you have it, make sure it's clearly stated on your resume. Obviously, we're not making anything up, but we're filling in the gaps to ensure that you're getting a fair shot at being considered for this role. Is it going to take you time? Absolutely. But we're looking for a new career, and that's what it's going to take in today's job market. A quick example, here's one technical position. We highlighted all of the keywords. Here's a resume, someone that right out of the gate, just by applying, got an interview, simply because in his summary, technical skills, and professional experience, he has indicated everything that the job was looking for. This person, if they did not get a phone call, I would have raised eyebrows. So you want to speak to the hiring manager. Let's go back to our previous example, before and after, right? We're just customizing. We're talking to the job we're applying. Here's a NBC10 viewer that this was the resume they were using. It obviously makes sense. A programmer's a programmer, an operator's an operator. It's the same for just about every company. But we gave him the task of going back and looking at all the jobs he's applied in the past 6 months. The jobs that you've applied, what have you been able to do? And is that on your resume? He was able on his own to compile this brand new resume, starting with the action verb followed by what he's done. This is his work. So go back to the drawing board, look at your resumes, look at the jobs you've been applying to. Are you talking to the job? A few last minute notes as we round the last minute. Do not assume your job title explains your job. Connect your experience to each job that you apply for. If an acronym is in your industry, make sure you spell it out or explain it. Do not create a resume in text box or templates. Double check your contact information to make sure your email and phone number are correct. Customize your cover letter to speak to the company, and please, please, please do not automate those. Balance white space on your paper. And ignore the 1 to 2 page rule. Make it enough so the company is interested in you. So in today's session, we have built a resume in order to get results. That means we do not have one resume, but we are creating one master resume. It is from this master resume, for every single job we apply, we're going to customize a tailored resume to talk to that company. We're going to save it with our name, followed by the company we're applying. So when we do get the call back, we are going to be able to bring the right resume to the right company. And we are no longer going to just apply for the sake of applying, but we're going to apply with a purpose. We're going to apply with the intent to secure the interview. If you can do the job and you know it, make sure your resume clearly states that you're a fit for that job. And please do the highlighter exercise just to be sure. And as always, never lie or mislead a company on your resume. It will come back to haunt you. I'd like to thank everyone, especially the team at NBC, for having me this evening. Tracy Davidson and the Survive and Thrive staff, you are wonderful. This is an amazing program, and thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to answering your questions live, and please feel free. You're welcome to connect with us on social media. Thank you all, and have a great day. Best of luck in your job search.